time it is this Sunday at 2/31/19 Hampton Ave. My City, My Music, Overtime Studios. Oh, the great in the building. Y'all know what it is. It's high off the glass time. You hear the music, you know what time it is. We are here to do the show. 3119 Hampton Ave. Overtime Studios. My City, My Music. High off the glass. Another awesome episode we about to bring y'all today. I'm going to tell y'all one thing, y'all. The universe works in a very mysterious freaking way. I'm just minding my business, you know what I'm saying? Last Friday, actually, I'll go down to Cola Lounge, one of the best and only cannabis lounges here in the state, in the beautiful state of Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, and I see some young folks there playing Uno. They invite me to play. I'm like, all right, fuck it, I'll come over there and bust y'all ass. And while I do it, you know what I'm saying, I get to introduce to two beautiful young sisters, Renee and Nadia Jackson-Fitch, who is part of the initiative, y'all, to bring hoops to Forest Park in St. Louis, Missouri. Can y'all believe that? What in the world? Everybody say what's up to Nadia, y'all. What's up? Welcome, sister. Pull that mic a little closer to you. We are about to get this going. It's just so weird. Like, I did not expect to, go. It's kind of, I should have expected it, because when I go down to Cola, I always meet some cool people that would be perfect for my show. Yeah. And sister, you started giving me your little, your rundown of what you do. And your bona fides, I was just like, please stop talking. Come on the show. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So,
I've been excited ever since.
For real. I was excited at the time, and I've been excited ever since, too. Thank you so much for making it through. Yeah, I'm glad you brought your man down here with you.
I did.
He making sure everything copacetic. What's up, G? How you living?
I'm good. How you doing?
Oh, I'm chilling, bro. I'm chilling. So, Miss Nadia, tell me your, give me your bona fides. Like, why, number one, besides you being part of this initiative to bring basketball hoops to Forest Park, which is something that I've been here for 22 years. I don't know why this never happened before. I feel like they were there before and they got taken down. I don't know what the hell the history is, but what's your deal? Why are you so involved with this beautiful game of basketball?
Yeah, so I, started a PhD program at Washington University in St. Louis in the fall of 2021. My research is at the intersections of racism, popular culture, but specifically sports, football, basketball, the way that racism manifests itself like in these institutions, and then also looking at how Black athletes like use their positions to be activists, resist and resiliency within the American institution that doesn't necessarily give us the opportunity to do that.
Right.
So I wanted to find a way to translate my work to the people that I so badly want to uplift. The people that I talk about, the people that inform my research and my work. I want that to translate to the community. Make a statement where, like, I'm not just extracting from these communities to build my research, but rather giving back to these communities that, inform my research.
Right. Now, that is beautiful. It's a lot of times when people come into our community and they see the rich resources that we have, they extract what they can and give nothing back.
Right.
But it seems like you're giving something back. Now, this is one thing I do with folks that are on my show. If I know your story or don't, I want to know the origin story of you.
Yeah.
So, like, what's the deal? Like, where are you from? How was your upgrading? Your upbringing? Mm-hmm. How was that? And how were you in school? Like, how was that for you?
Yeah. So I'm from Norman, Oklahoma. That's where I was raised. My parents were former military, so that's just where we ended up.
Why do I know Norman?
Norman is University of Oklahoma.
There it is. That's why I know that.
Yep.
Okay, bad.
That's my alma mater. I went to University of Oklahoma for political science.
Nice.
My upbringing was odd. I, grew up in a city that is predominantly white. It was a sundown town until, the early 1970s. The first Black family didn't move to Norman until 1969.
Damn.
So it was a very racist experience.
Mm-hmm.
When I actually, entered into political science and, PhD in sociology, I initially wanted to study police contact because I had seen some pretty violent and, traumatizing ways that my dad had had his interactions with the police, particularly in Norman.
Speak on that. Now, and before you do that, this was my question Friday night's my question now. What is your race?
My dad is black and my mom's white.
Okay.
So,
all right. So okay, mixed.
I'm I'm biracial. I recognize the privilege of that. But I also very much identify and associate, myself and carry myself as a black woman. And that's how I navigate, life.
Wow.
So yeah, I had seen a lot of very violent interactions that my dad had, and that informed my research surrounding police contact.
Wow.
But when I entered into the PhD program, I started to notice this like hyperfixation of, scholars wanting to constantly focus on, trauma and violence that our communities experience. And although important, like I wanted to highlight like how are our communities resilient? How are they resisting?
Right.
And we know racism is embedded in sports, but also, we see a lot of athletes, black athletes, use their positions of power to, be vocal.
As they should.
Yeah, right. Like be vocal and be activists. And
Right.
so that's the angle I wanted to take. I wanted to highlight, ways that our community is actually doing great, and the ways that black excellence is like very much permeated, within pop culture.
Exactly. So to bring it back to, because I want to know about Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I want to know about that, because that is what molded Miss Fitch into what she is now. So, okay, so you're coming up there. You notice, I guess, at a young age, the racial divide that goes on within that town.
Right.
Is that a city or a town?
It's a city.
It's a city?
Yeah.
Okay. You notice the racial divide that's going on there. How do you, at a young age, like where did besides your dad's interactions with law enforcement, because I got some choice words for them people. Besides that, did you notice it in school? Did you notice it at extracurricular activities that you were a part of?
Yeah. So I didn't have like such direct violent impacts with police, for example.
Right.
And again, that's where like the piece of being biracial and having light skin like is a place of privilege. But again, like we're talking like early 2000s when people aren't as hyper aware of racism as they are now.
Right.
Not to say that it's good now, it definitely isn't. But I think people were more open about being racist at that time period.
More.
Yeah. And it's, one of those things where I, got made fun of for my hair. I got made fun of for my body type. I was often targeted by administration and harassed by administration. I made great grades, straight A student. Most of the time growing up, I, actually am like, I started undergrad as a math major, so I made it all the way through Calc 3 and just, quit with that. That was too much.
Right.
But I'm very smart, and
Clearly.
my parents would do parent-teacher conferences, for example, and they'd be like, "She's so smart, she contributes to the class, but she talks too much. She's obnoxious. She's rowdy." And those are all things that are like very deeply coded.
You were a rebel rouser.
Yeah,
that's what
right.
it was. That's what they wanted to say.
Yeah, I think that's. I challenged my teachers and they didn't like it. And, I called out other students and they didn't like it. I had some pretty violent interactions within the school system of Norman. And I think that there's like a lack of protection for black students in the city of Norman. And there's stuff that still pops up in the national news, regarding like my high school or the rival high school.
Such as?
Like there was something that came out, I want to say it was about a year ago. The Norman High basketball girls team was like berated and were called a bunch of slurs like at their basketball game.
At their home game?
Yeah, and this is in 2022.
What?
Yeah, at their home game. And there was nothing that was done or really said about it. I tried to write an op-ed and send it to the Norman Transcript. Of course, they don't want it because it's an op-ed of me talking about how, Norman, although my home was like a very racist and traumatizing experience for me.
In that paper, is that like the big paper there?
Yeah, it's like their newspaper. So it was just like like an opinion piece that I tried to submit. Yeah, they rejected it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
Now, that is just last year. Like, and I love when people, and those of you that are listening to the conversation, if you'd like to call in, if you have a question, comment, something you can add to the conversation, feel free. 515-599-1687. 515-599-1687. If you'd like to call in with a comment. Just, it's funny that those folks that say, oh, since Obama was elected, there's no more racism. That's funny. But then, to me, you said something interesting. You said, as a child, you had to deal, in the school system, you had to deal with different racial instances, but then with your hair. Now, this is what I don't get. Looking at you at a quick glance, before you start talking. Now, when you talk, you're like, okay, she might be something else. But just looking at you, you look like, not the prototypical white girl, but you look like a white woman.
Like, it's racially ambiguous.
Right. So,
and I think we also have to
over your hair.
I will say we got to account for the fact that my hair is straightened right now, and it's the wintertime. Light-skinned people really go through it in the wintertime.
Right.
So,
talk about it, girl.
Let me be.
Talk about it.
It's also it's also like a thing of like my hair pattern was very, very curly. I would say up until naturally. Almost, bordering kind of sometimes unmanageable. But I would say up until, my mid-20s, my curl pattern was a very, very tight curl pattern. I think, my hairdresser just tells me because, like, of age and things like that, like, your curls just start to fall more and more. But even now, like, even when my hair's curly, it's very much more on the wavy side than it was growing up. Right. I had darker skin growing up. All things that are like contributing factors of just aging. Right. I'm still young, obviously, but those things very much change. And then again, like, we're in a very white city, like, and oftentimes, like, even being biracial, I was the only black person in a classroom of 30 students. Right. So I think that even now, where, like, I can be seen as racially ambiguous, like, in this moment, like, if I drop myself in Norman, that's not how I'm perceived. Right. And so I think it's just based on location as well, because St. Louis is a predominantly black city, and when you go to predominantly black cities, like, obviously I'm very light-skinned, and, like, I don't, I'm not perceived as black as quickly as I would be in, like, a white city. Exactly. Because, like, white people will look at me and be like, yeah, she definitely not white. Right. You know what I mean? Right. So, and then it's also, like, again, is, like, the changing of culture. We're also in a culture and an age where, like, being racially ambiguous or being light-skinned is, like, seen as, like, this beauty standard now, where back then the beauty standard was to be skinny, white, blonde. Now it's to be like curvy and thick. Yeah, right. I think it's just like cultural differences that kind of like change the way people perceive other people as well. Right. It's a weird. And I want to talk more about your. I want to talk about your high school years, but when I had Brennan on last year, and I've had this brother on before, and the purgatory, the kind of racial purgatory that that biracial people are put in is so fucked up. It's just like white people look at you and instantly say, "Oh, they're not white," and they can kind of tell. And then black folks look at you and say, "Well, you're not black." You know what I'm saying? Even though you are, even though you're both things, you have the races kind of push y'all into some type of weird racial purgatory that you should not be in. Do you ever? Am I crazy thinking that? Because when I brought it up with Brennan, he said I was exactly correct. Yeah. What do you think? I think so. I think growing up and before, like, I actually understand the way, like, racism operates and the way race operates in the United States specifically, is that it's one of those things where, like, white people will definitely racialize me as black. And, every once in a while, I will interact with other black people and they'll be like, well, you're biracial. Like, what do you and I think what comes from it and the way that, like, the black community, like, at least from my experience, like, learns to, like, accept biracial people as black is, like, your positionality on things. Right. So I think that biracial people that really struggle to fit into, like, this black category, I think that that's, like, internalized racism. And I think that they're, like, really internalizing that they don't know their identity.
Right.
Like, I know who I am.
Right.
Like, you can question me.
Talk about it.
But
Talk about
like,
it.
I'm gonna tell you at the end of the day.
My bad.
No, you're good. I'm gonna talk about, you know, how I identify, and, you know, you'll pick up, like you said, it's like when you start talking to me, you're like, oh, there's no doubt. You know, for the people, by the people type thing. But
Right.
it's just, I think it's your positionality as well, because I mean, I'm sure that there's, you know, biracial people out there that very much don't associate themselves with blackness at all.
Yeah.
And that is where like that identity crisis starts to like come in.
Right.
Is like, as long as you are okay with your identity and like you are standing by the people you so badly, like a community you so badly want to be a part of and be
Right.
represented by, like,
Right.
then just do that.
Right.
There's no fighting about it. So
Right.
I used to struggle with like this like, you know, what is this middle ground? But I can, like I said, I can recognize my privilege of being half white and like navigating the world as half white, but also recognize that there have been experiences that I've had that have shaped like my black identity. So
Right. That's beautiful. What can you give me? Can you give me one of those experiences?
yeah, I think the most prominent and the most recent in my adult life, I was living in Germany for a couple of years, and
What were you doing there?
I was working there.
Okay.
My ex was military, so I was out there. But I had
Pull the mic a little closer to you.
yeah,
Right on. There you go.
I had some, you know, pretty like violent experiences with the police out there.
Oh, in Germany.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
And, you know, pretty violent experiences with just like Europeans very generally.
Wow.
And, you know, when you go to like the original place where whiteness developed, you know, you start to realize like the most racialized experiences that I have are in very, very white spaces, like spaces where there's no interaction with black people on any spectrum.
Right.
So yeah, I had some pretty bad experiences out there. I mean, people still actively, you know, don't care about racial slurs. I mean, there's practices of blackface very publicly,
Right.
like parades of blackface
Right. It's
out
like
there.
it's like a carnival or something for them. Yeah.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
It's in a tradition.
Yeah. And then I think even for me, like, I think a lot of it is very like covert in the United States, where like, you know, for example, I'm actually going to be transferring out of my department to University of Minnesota in the fall, and you know, it was due to a lot of like racialized experiences. Like, me and Renee at the time were the only two black grad students, and they were, you know, doing things like giving us worse grades than our peers. And yeah, like, you know, pulling us into offices to tell us that we're incompetent, you know, in so few words, doing things like pay disparities between white scholars and black scholars. So like things that like people may not be like, oh, this is blatant racism, but it's covert. Like,
Right.
you know, like it's hidden.
That's exactly
You know,
what
when you contribute to these patterns of disparity, like, that is racism.
Jesus.
So
Wow, that is disturbing, and I 100% believe it and get it. Now, going back to what it is, like, you're heavy off into education. Like, where does this come from? Is this a family thing? Like, were you raised like this? Like, it's like if you did not do an obscene amount of schoolwork, you weren't a part of the family. Like, what is it? You had to be ridiculously educated. Like, what's the thing?
yeah, I think so. My dad got his degree in engineering, graduated from college at like 21.
Oh, wow.
So he's very, very smart. He joined the military after he graduated college.
Oh, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. For those listening on Facebook, Ryan Norman is in Oklahoma, where University of Oklahoma is. Ryan asked, "Where is Norman?"
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go keep
yeah. It's like 20 minutes outside of Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom did not. She graduated high school, immediately joined the military. When she got out, she was like, I gotta have something to do.
Right.
So she went to college with two kids. Went to the University of Oklahoma, got her degree in management information systems. So she's a programmer.
Okay.
They're both, you know, finished at bachelor's. They both are government employees.
Wow.
And then long line of government employees. You know, my dad's mom was a government employee, and you know, he has siblings with degrees. They very much pushed education. my dad always said, people can take everything from you, but they can't take away your knowledge.
God, no. Man, that dude's smart.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's my man.
That's some genius words right there.
Yeah. So I grew up prioritizing education. I was really good at it, and went to University of Oklahoma. Realized I was even better at it, and then that's when I was like, well, what am I going to do with a political science undergrad degree?
Right.
Law school seems like the only option.
Right.
But I didn't want to go to law school, and I had some really wonderful mentors that were like, well, this is an option. You can get your PhD.
But slow down, though.
Yeah.
You had an undergrad in law.
In political science.
Science.
Yeah.
That's a plethora of careers.
Yeah.
Why not be satisfied just with that?
Yeah, I think I didn't want to do anything that was government oriented.
Okay.
I didn't want to do anything that was politician oriented. Okay. I think there's not much you can do in the United States that's considered ethical, but those are very far from my ethics.
Right.
And law school was an option, but law school you have to pay for. You have to pay a lot of money to go to law school.
Right.
And it often ends up very unethical.
True.
So it was.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
That's the most ethical shit that you could do. You got to get in the weeds.
Unethical.
Yeah, they make it unethical.
They find a way, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So I really wanted to get as close as morally aligned with how I want to live my life and my beliefs in a career. And so, PhD, academia, it's a silo. It's all about who you know. It's very tight-knit, and, people that get their PhDs, their parents usually have PhDs, things like that. But I'm the first to be getting my PhD in my family.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. We got to give props for that.
Yeah.
No, that no air horn. That deserves air horn. For real. That's amazing. For real.
So I was really happy about doing that, but I really wanted to, the hardest part is getting in when you don't know anybody, if you don't know about what getting a PhD is like.
Right.
And it's intentional. It's to keep minoritized populations out and allow white women and white men to continue to reproduce racism within academia.
This sister be dropping knowledge, y'all. She telling the truth. Go ahead, girl. I know one thing. You need to share that butt over there, for real. You ain't gonna do all that puffing and not share. For real, bro. Right on. This high off the glass. We blow over here. I just ain't had time to roll up. Right on. Ain't no kids here neither. Thank you, sir. Right on. Keep going, sister. Keep going.
Yeah, so I had mentors that opened the door for me as to what getting a PhD looks like. And honestly, I hope this gives a lot of information to people who may not know about PhD track, but you can go straight from your bachelor's into a PhD program. For the most part, it is paid for, your entire education's paid for. You get paid to get your PhD. So you spend the first 2 years taking classes, and then you spend, the last 3 or 4 years writing, your dissertation. You produce research, and universities benefit from doing this because, you're producing work for the university that makes the university look good, and it gives them money.
Right.
And trust, they severely underpay graduate students for the work that they do.
Huh.
But at the end of the day, I make an income off of earning a PhD.
Now, how does that, so does the school pay you?
Yeah, so the school pays me, and usually you have to be a teacher assistant or a research assistant. A teacher assistant or a research assistant, you are working. And then, like I said, you're expected to produce research. And if the university is attached to that research, they get money.
Wow.
It's a cycle. So, grad students are severely overworked and underpaid. But, I think people think that, and it is elitist, but I think people have this idea that, you can't get a PhD because if law school costs a lot of money, a PhD must cost more. No, you get your education paid for. It is an option. And if it's a subject that you're really passionate about, that you want to spend time, writing on and working on and doing things like this, connecting with people, it's a way to do that without having to, like I said, is with political science, I was this feels like my only options. I really don't want to do this. I really want to read and write on the things that I care about. I don't want to, set aside my morals for a government job or for law.
Sit behind the desk.
Yeah, right.
You wanted to actually get out there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So with the PhD program, you're able to get paid and get out there and actually put your degree to work.
Right. And I think that that's also like different for certain people. Certain people being white people. White people in academia overwhelmingly, again, like silo themselves off, where they will research and write and read on, marginalized communities, but don't give anything back. They exploit them, extort them for the knowledge, and then there's no trade-off. And so for me, what mattered to me was like making my work, translatable for the general audience.
Okay.
And then also like giving back to the communities that provide like research opportunities to me. And that's, called public sociology, and that matters more to me than, producing research for big institutions.
It should. It definitely should. That is amazing. So now with that, to jump into why I'm so excited to have you here, why I believe you're a basketball influencer, not even your initiative with Forest Park, a PhD in basketball with an emphasis on race in sports. Like what? Wow! What is, that's freaking that's amazing, and you need an applause just for that.
Thank you.
Why that specifically?
Yeah. So when it came to sports, I chose sports because that's how me and my dad bonded. Diehard Sixers fan. He had two daughters. Nice. So
He's from Philly.
He's from all my family's from Pennsylvania. All my dad's side of the family's from Pennsylvania.
Nice.
So got family in Harrisburg, got family in Philly. So diehard Philly fan, but other than football, which I'm a Steelers fan.
Okay.
But still happy to see that the Eagles made it to the Super Bowl.
They should have won it. Damn it, they should have won it.
They
God,
really
I had money on their ass. Anyway, go ahead. So, in just to interject real quick, was it military that brought him to Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was he in Army? Or?
Both my parents were Air Force. That's where they met.
So you come from smart genes.
Yeah, because my mom was she's from New Mexico, so they're from nowhere.
You know what time it is.
And it turned into they met after they finished basic training in Mississippi. They moved to Virginia, had me ironically in Hampton, which is where Iverson's from.
Yep. Heck yeah.
And
you love that.
Yeah. Yep. And then we moved to Turkey, where they had my sister.
Wow.
And then my dad got out and my mom was still in, so we moved to Oklahoma. 9/11 happened. She was like, I'm not standing for this shit. She got out. So that's how, and then it just became a place where they raised us. So I lived there until I was 18.
Okay, bad. And to get back to the PhD, okay, why basketball?
Yeah, I think, again, like I wanted to do something that informed the way that, like the things that bring me joy, like the things that I opened myself up to and have experienced.
And that made you closer with your dad watching the sport.
Yeah, sports was something that me and him did. Right. My mom and my sister can't stand it. But it was something that I was always interested in, and he informed my original research topic, which was the police contact, and I was like, well, why can't I use this to inform my topics on sports? And we always have really good conversations surrounding sport, and I just translated that over into my research. So I do primarily basketball. I do a little bit of football. Football is definitely like it's a whole different ball game. It's two different things that I have to spend time talking about. So right now, like I'm really fixating on the basketball piece.
And that is, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's literally what I said to you last Friday when I met you. There's so much of race in football because it literally keeps people that look like you and I out of jobs. As you can see, Eric Bieniemy, who should already talk about, you already know where I'm going, bro. What is it? Eric Bieniemy, who's the offensive coordinator for Kansas City, he can't get a head coaching job, but the defensive coordinator for Philly can, and the OC for Philly can, even though they've won nothing. My man has to be now the associate head coach with the Washington football team. What the fuck is that? Like, that's the most funkiest thing. And this is the thing that made me so sad about it, right? You got high paid coons on ESPN, and the main one is Stephen A. Smith, right? Stephen A. Idiot, I'm used to him saying stupid shit. That's why I don't fuck with his show. I don't mess with him on no level. But then you got Ryan Clark, someone who was actually in the league. I literally saw this about 4 days ago, earlier this week at work. I watched it on a coworker's phone while I was at work. This man said, well, I don't know why Eric can't get a job, but maybe he needs to go to another team and take another team to the Super Bowl. And then that's what it is. Like that is the thing. And I know you're talking about this in your thesis and your PhD. The goalpost is constantly moved for African American athletes, executives, whatever the case may be. Not only do you have to win, no, you got to go win somewhere else. And a Ryan Black, and I just couldn't believe he said some shit like that. Like, that really pissed me off. Like, I think I reached out to him on Twitter. If not, I'm gonna do it today. Because that was some bullshit. Yeah. But go ahead.
Oh yeah, and I think that like that is like an issue that we see permeating and has always been an issue. Is like black people got to work 10 times as harder for half the reward. And it's one of those, and football is peculiar because basketball at the professional level is like the percentage of black athletes is slightly higher, but it's not much off from football. But I think what makes football so different is the fan base, and I think even on the field, like there are stereotypes surrounding like what positions white men should be playing.
Right.
And I think like this
white dudes can't be white outs.
Right.
Crazy shit like that.
And I think it's things like, in football, like positions are assigned and that is your position. In basketball, it's constantly fluctuating.
That's true. Especially now.
Right. And so I think that when it comes to football, it's the racialization of football is more stark and more deeply embedded. And then like you said, is you deal with black athletes or black commentators saying like really ignorant shit about black players in a way that almost feels like they're only entertaining white audiences. Like black audiences still watch football, and y'all are saying these things, and there are black children that want to go into football or like are listening to you and like taking this all in, and you're making like these ignorant comments about black coaches and black players. And I have some things about it, but
and I'm here for him now. Again, football's ripe with it, but basketball is as well. We only have one in the NBA. We only have one minority owner, which is Michael Jordan, the GOAT. I mean, This dude, he has to do things with the basketball we've never seen before. He has to be the greatest to ever do it, and then he's the one that can be a sole owner. Magic was there as well. Magic got there before GOAT, but Magic was a minority owner. GOAT is the majority owner of the Charlotte Hornets, which is amazing. But it's just crazy, like you said, like the shit that we have to do. Chris Rock said it in a special years ago. But it's just basketball has it as well. I said for years, Boston Celtics, a team I care about, my team, get a young black coach in there. It's like in all these professional sports, you want young, good, fast black players. I want the young, fast buck. I want the young black buck. I want that. But you don't want that to teach, which makes no sense to me. Why would you want some white, like, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. Why would Minnesota Timberwolves want Randy Whitman, who could not sniff the league in any fucking circumstance, any dimension we lived in, could not sniff the league, but is in charge of making the Minnesota Timberwolves, an NBA team, prosperous and good? Like, how, in what world? It does not work. My man Tyler Jenkins with the Memphis Grizzlies. He can't coach.
Yeah,
he can't coach. He can't relate with those players. Also, too, when they ask him at halftime, so what adjustments are you're down 10 by the Knicks? What's your adjustments? Oh, we're going to have this. We're going to do that. We're going to do this, and it'll come out. They go in the second half. It's the same. Ja just drive the fucking go to the hoop. That's all they do. Like, he cannot coach. I don't understand it. When Boston did it, look what happened. Made it to the damn NBA Finals. Yep. Hadn't made it to the Finals in 2008. You look at Houston. Well, not Houston. Houston's a bad example. But you look at the New Orleans Pelicans. They get a young black coach, Willie Green, in there. First year, they go to the playoffs and are good. I mean, it's just, there's so many different examples of it, of why you would need good young black coaching. Right. Why don't we have that?
Right. And I think I want to speak to your Michael Jordan point because,
Please.
like you said, is like the first, like he is a major owner of an NBA team, and, you know, yes, there's a point to be made about, like, he has to be, like, the absolute greatest to be the first major owner.
Right.
But then also think about the positionality Michael Jordan takes as a black athlete. Like, he's very much, like, on some O.J. Simpson, like, I'm not black. Like, I'm Michael Jordan. I'm not making these political stances because I sell my shoes to white people too. Like, it's
he's
almost
changed,
like,
though. He's changed. Oh, like here in the last, especially since it was sad it took George Floyd. It literally had to take George Floyd, but yes, like now he kind of publicly. I remember when Dump, I call the last president. Y'all call him his one name. I call him Dump because that's what he is. When he said, "Oh, I take Bron over Jordan," Jordan sided with, "No, I take Bron. I'm not going to side with you on that."
Right.
When it was time to give back to Black Lives Matter, his Jordan brand was all on it, you know, all about it, giving money, giving millions of dollars to Black Lives Matter. He has always given money to HBCUs.
Yeah.
That's one thing I like about him. But now he's finally saying some stuff.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like he always, and probably from where he was coached, how he was coached back in the 80s, he always stays super neutral. And he would never take a stance on shit.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that pissed me off because that dude's literally my hero. Yeah. And for him to do that, and my mother used to throw it in my face all the time because she can't stand him because he used to beat her Pistons. Yeah. But that he never took a lane, but now he is. But to your point, I don't mean to cut you off. Go back to what you were saying.
Yeah, I think that, like, it's almost like sometimes it feels, and definitely not an excuse, but maybe an explanation. Like, it sometimes feels like you have to fold on the black community, or if you have to fold on your blackness to, like, be welcomed into these spaces.
You almost do. You almost do.
And so, like, I'm trying to, like, take this positionality where, like, no, you can very much hone in on your blackness and, you know, you know, your culture. Thank you. But you can hone in on all of those things. And if that means, like, for me, if that means, like, you know, missing out on opportunities because, you know, you stand too much on blackness or you're too black or any of these things, like, fuck it, then I'm missing out. Like, I'm not going to fold.
And with that, I swear to God, Nadia, I wasn't even going to go here with this, but listening to you talk just now, what you just said, you don't have to fold. You can keep your blackness. You don't have to subdue yourself. What do you think about Dion in Jackson State?
Oh my God. I know Kobe's back there.
Yeah. Kobe's a little hype about it. almost want to give Kobe a mic.
Oh my goodness.
Because we can, bro. Feel free. I mean, hey, look, you can jump. There's an ashtray for you right there too. You can jump on. Hey, turn the green mic on, Just.
We've gotten to the point in the house where we're just like, we're not talking about this.
Oh, please.
But
I picked a good one.
I have very
Look at your face. Kobe is hype.
I have very mixed feelings about it because I very much understand.
I picked a good one.
Yeah, like I understand like his theoretical principles of wanting to like uplift like black athletes and, you know, being a black coach and being like all about his blackness, being very out there and like very, you know, very sure about himself.
Right.
The issue that I took with Dion is not that he left. It was that he advertised himself as someone who is for the black community, you know, like, you know, by the black community. I'm gonna do what I can for HBCUs and HBCU athletes and all of these things. And the minute he gets an opportunity, he folds.
Right, I'm gone.
He folds.
Yeah.
And I understand wanting to make more money, but I think that that's where conversations of like capitalism come in. Is like, how much money do you need? Like, we know that. I think it's something like after you reach a certain financial threshold, like money actually has no impact on your happiness. Right. So like money can make you happy because it relieves stressors and things like that.
Yes, it does.
But there's a threshold that you reach, which I think is something like $75,000 a year. Like there's a threshold where you reach that like it actually does not have an impact on your happiness. Right. So if you are comfortable making I don't know how much he was making, but let's say he's making $300,000, you know, as a coach at an HBCU, like, do you really need to leave for millions like that? And then to a very, very white state at a very, very white campus and a very white community.
Right. With a shitty football team. Yeah.
And
Not
then
even good. Yeah.
And then there's this, and this is where Kobe comes in and is like, well, he's bringing, black athletes with him. Okay, well, what about the other athletes that are being left behind?
Right.
What about the black athletes that are on the team that he has to potentially kick off to bring whoever he so selects to this team?
Not everybody's going to keep that scholarship.
Right. And that's where it gets fucked up. Yeah. And I also can recognize that, like, academic institutions really take issue with athletic scholarships, and they can, like, that has, like, the coach has impact on that, but, like, also the ivory tower academia universities, like, very much are okay with just, like, stripping someone of their scholarship when this is the only reason why they're in college to begin with.
Right.
And they'll just do it at the drop of a hat.
They will.
They don't care. You get nothing. And so I do feel some type of way about it. I can rationalize with, him doing what he did, but I think to, like, go off of this as, like, a, I'm doing all these things for the black community and for HBCUs, and the minute, like, a white opportunity comes in, you swoop in and take it immediately.
Talk about it. Okay, but yes. Yes and yes. All right, Mr. Kobe, what is your opinion on Sanders and what he did?
I think Deion.
Hold on, I'm going to interrupt. I want to give a preface to Kobe. Kobe is, he was a D1 athlete at Miami University of Ohio.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, he's a MAC champion.
Give them bona fides.
Yeah, he knows his football, so I'll give him that.
Right on. He is not just someone speaking out of school. He is not just Nadia's boyfriend, everybody. This man is a, Division I athlete.
Yes,
he
sir.
knows what time it is, and he knows, and this is the level that Deion wanted to get to, and is supposedly at now. So you tell me, Miami, Ohio graduate?
Yes, sir. Yes, I am.
Oh shit!
Yes, I am. Got my bachelor's degree.
Oh my goodness! I see why you with him. Right on. This man is smart. There you go. All right, that's props in and of itself. All right, Cole, break it down. What's your opinion on it?
Okay, so Deion was at a HBCU. And what y'all don't realize is he gave half of his money back to the facilities that, he was trying to get. So all that new locker room they got, all that came because of Deion, correct? Mm-hmm. He did what he was supposed to do there, elevate that school. Mm-hmm. And now it's to the point where how much more can he grow at that school? Mm-hmm. Let's be honest. How much more can he grow? Mm-hmm. Winning that championship probably would have helped him. Mm-hmm. But let's be honest here. He got the number one recruit in class of, what was that, 2022, Travis Hunter? He got him to commit.
Okay.
A number one recruit in the country. He got him to come to HBCU.
Did he? So is he still there though?
He did that. Yes, he traveled with Deion to Colorado.
Oh well, he ain't there. He's in Colorado.
No, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Okay.
But his whole mindset is he can get coached by the greatest DB to play. Correct, Deion Sanders. Mm-hmm. So for him to be able to recruit at a HBCU school in general, because everybody knows that if you really don't go D1, the odds of you to get into the league, let's be real here.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's very slim to go to the league coming from a non-D1 school. Mm-hmm. So for him to be
even though players do it all the time,
they do. Yeah. Yep. But it's a lot harder.
It is.
So
it is.
So he recruited Travis Hunter there, and then when he got the chance to go to Colorado, yes, that did lose some people's scholarships, but at the end of the day, playing college football is a business. Sadly, it is what it is, but it is a business just like anybody else have a job. They get new people coming in. I'm sorry, you got to go. Yeah. But that's just how it is. Yeah. And then to be honest with you, yeah, that does suck. But at the end of the day, he got brought in to change that program around.
Right.
And he already brought what he had from Jackson State. He brought probably 10 players from Jackson State to Colorado. Right. So he gave them a chance. Right. He got transfers coming in. And then besides all that, he also got the next number one recruit in the country in Kermani McClain, I want to say. He got him to flip his commitment from Miami. Because he's a Florida boy. He was finna stay at home. Miami. He got him to flip his commitment to Colorado. So for one, not many people are getting the number one recruit in back-to-back years. Let's be honest here. Nick Saban, he didn't even get the number one recruit in back-to-back years.
Right.
So that already proves you how well of
recruiter and coach.
A recruiter that he is, you know. But then also he's giving other coaches, you know, the chance to grow their game. And what if they want to, you know, come coach with Deion, and then, you know, 3-4 years down the line, now they're in the league.
Right.
You know, he brought athletic trainers from Jackson State. He brought two women, actually. They were in the Jackson State athletic training program, and he brought them to Colorado.
Okay.
So just imagine that on their resume.
Right.
You know, graduating, from a predominantly white school. I get all that.
Mm-hmm.
But a degree, I'm assuming, looks better than a HBCU degree in athletic training.
Well,
I'm assuming.
I don't know.
I'm assuming.
You shouldn't just assume that. It depends on, especially if you go to a HBCU that has a strong athletic department, just like Springfield College and Springfield, Mass, where I'm from. Like anybody who wants to be like a gym teacher or anything athletics in education, you try to go to that school. That's a D2 school. You know what I'm saying? But it's, you want to go there if you want to have some type of job in athleticism, especially in education. You go to Springfield College. But I get your point. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, cool. All right. I'm glad you got a different opinion on it than Nadia. Okay. This is my point on it, and I get everything you're saying, and what you're saying makes some sense. But one thing I would say, unlike a regular job, if you have your spot at your job, the new person coming in hired is not going to bump you out of your spot. So that's the difference right there. That's one thing between a regular job and sports. That's not going to happen. If you've been at that place for such and such time, you've been doing a good job, they're not going to fire you because some new person comes in. That's number one. Number two, how do you think that leaves Jackson State when he takes the athletic trainers with him, when he takes a number one recruit with him, when he takes this person with him, when he takes that person with him? How does that leave Jackson State? Then the other thing, like, did you leave Jackson State better than when you got there? Maybe to a certain extent, but a lot of the inroads and things that you made that made it better, you're taking it with you. You know what I'm saying? So you're kind of bringing them back down. Also, too, the thing that I'm disappointed in, to Nadia's point, when this dude came in, he talked in the press conference. He made himself seem like he was a savior. Like, I'm going to do this for this HBCU, and I'm going to do this, and we need to start doing this for black schools, and doing this, and da 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 and da da. And everybody, and Deion is kind of like a shady reverend. He's a shady pastor. Like, this dude will sell you a bill of goods that you'll buy, and you'll hold in your hand, and you think it's legit. The next thing you know, it turns into fucking fairy dust because he'll take it and go to Colorado. Like, he said all this stuff in the press conference. From my point of view, from what you said out of your mouth, Deion, you didn't do everything you were supposed to do. There was a hell of a lot more he could have done. And then also, too, why Colorado? Like, if you're gonna do that, at least take Alabama, Arkansas. Like, get a big name college basketball, a college football program. You're going to a school that hasn't been shit since the 90s. It's literally since the 90s. Like, nobody has gave a shit about the Buffaloes, and they haven't been good. And I get it. If they were good, they wouldn't even be calling them. But it's just funny to me how Ed Reed tried to do it, and it didn't work out. Deion did do it. You use HBCUs to get your profile up, and then once you get your profile up, then you're gone. It's just what Nadia said before. You go into our communities, you see the luscious resources, you use the resources to as much as you can, and you take off with the goods. Like, I can't co-sign that. I really think. And Deion, the other thing that Deion was doing, consciously or subconsciously, he was leading a fucking movement to HBCUs. And I know you got a point. I want you to jump on it. He was leading a movement to it. Bron was talking about Bronny going to a HBCU. Since Deion left, I ain't heard shit about that. Like, that's something we needed. And I talked about this on my show literally a year and a half ago. I said to a friend of mine that on this very podcast, if we start sending one or two big-time black athletes to a HBCU, it'll be a domino effect, and we will control college sports like we should. Not just that's why I can't stand college football, because this is college football. Every fucking year it's the same white schools in the big games. Every year. Even with a playoff system, it's still the same white schools every year. Like, I just can't co-sign it. I can't get down with it. The thing that happened with Ed Reed and Bethune-Cookman, I think that was horrible. The AD for them is Reggie Theus. Reggie Theus, you should be ashamed of your motherfucking self, because the way you carry that athletic department, it is obviously not up to snuff. And the stuff that went on with them, why couldn't that be held? Why couldn't that be behind closed doors? Why the hell did that have to be out in social media for everybody to fucking see? I just thought that was sad. But go ahead, Kobe. Say your point.
The whole thing about with the coaching staff, how many black college coaches do you know?
In
name
in D1 schools?
Yes, correct. At the top D1 schools, how many black coaches are there? Besides the
Dion?
recent Notre Dame coach. Besides him now.
Notre Dame got a black coach?
Yeah, Marcus Freeman.
Marcus Freeman.
Came over from Cincinnati.
That's
he
true.
was behind Brian Kelly when Brian Kelly left. They kept him.
Besides Dion and him, no, I don't know.
Well, so then let's be honest here. What other big schools was going to give him a chance to make his name? You know, what other big schools were going to give him?
Exactly. Maybe this is the thing. Stay there and win the championship there, not just the SWAC. Win a championship there, and I don't know. Go to Hampton and do the same fucking thing. Go to Morehouse and do the same damn thing. Go to Grambling and help them do the same damn thing. Like you can take that model, and instead of taking it to them who already have the money and the resources, give it to other schools who you know don't. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, you got a point. You got a point with that.
That's all I'm screaming. Yeah, but I don't want to take this whole thing away because we could jump into that because that seems like you guys are on opposite sides of that. And you all don't talk about that.
And I understand, I very much understand Kobe's point, but I think it also speaks to like Kobe said is like it's a business, and that's what's the issue is that like you said is like maybe that's not how it operates like in other jobs or regular jobs, but even if it did, the issue is that we treat college athletics as a business, and that's a problem. Like, and then we only highlight, black academics through sports. Like, we are forgetting the piece that like we should be promoting education.
Right.
We should give these athletes, because it's like, especially in basketball, like there's only 11 slots you get on a team, per NBA team. Like
15 now.
Yeah, well, it's not a lot. You know what I mean? Like like the NBA, like it's like 1%, like 1% of the people that play college level basketball, like at the NCAA level, like make it. And that's an issue. Like, we are not setting players up for education. Like, education isn't a business. It shouldn't be a business. And college athletics should definitely not be a business. And if we're going to treat it like a business, then we need to be paying our players.
Right.
Like, if you are going to, well,
they are now.
They're not, though. That's the issue.
Image and likeness.
But that's the issue, though, is like, I am very pro NIL deals, but the issue is that like, why do they still have to seek monetary support through these like third parties? Right. Why is the NCAA still like $1 billion industry pulling in billions?
Super fast.
We're not paying anybody. Like we're not paying any athletes. Like, we should be paying players for their work.
Right.
Like, if we're going to stress sports, especially on black athletes, like, pay them for their work.
Right.
At least, in the meantime, while they're doing it, let's say that they don't make it to the NBA or the NFL. Well, the work that you just put in for 4 years didn't go to waste because you at least made some money off of it. Like, for your labor, like you are working, you should be getting paid.
Right.
I'm not anti-NIL by any means, but I think it's like a cop-out for the NCAA. Like, that's the easiest thing that they could have done. Yep. That's how they're, they get to keep their money.
That's so, I never looked at,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great way to look at it. I mean, and I love that you said that, because we were so stupid as a people, saying, well, they're finally getting paid. The players are finally, it's not slave labor anymore. But again, like, right, Cole, it's still that the NCAA still gets to keep their $1 billion entity and still does not have to share that with the labor force. Like, that's freaking
And then
crazy.
think about how much that, like, do you think that they would have passed the NIL deals if the NCAA wasn't benefiting from it?
Right.
Like, think of, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but think that the NCAA, like, do they get a cut? Do they get a piece? Like, when players are making these big deals with these big brands, like, they're probably benefiting from it in some way too. They wouldn't do it if they weren't.
I hope to God that they aren't, but you're probably correct. But I don't think it was they passed it. They were forced from Ed O'Bannon's lawsuit. And major shout out to Ed O'Bannon, who saw that why is my jersey, why is my likeness on the cover of NCAA March Madness? Yet I can't make any money off of it.
Why can people bet on your body, but you can't make money?
Exactly.
Like,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
I have my own, my own thoughts surrounding sports betting very generally, but I think it's like especially abhorrent to bet on college athletes because they don't make money off of their bets.
Right,
Like,
right.
they can't bet on themselves. They can't, and that's why, I liked the introduction of the NIL because, like, why can you use my name, but I can't use my name?
Right.
Like, there's no autonomy. Like, there's no bodily autonomy
Exactly.
to primarily black men.
Yeah.
And that's, that's been my biggest issue is, like, it shouldn't be a thing where, like, some random 55-year-old white man can bet on, the way that, a college athlete plays.
Right.
But how does the college athlete benefit from it?
Exactly.
Like,
Go ahead. Yeah.
So-
I mean, that makes sense. Kobe, what's your point?
Going off of what you said about how they can't make money off their own name. Coming from me, I went to Miami University. I had two former teammates who had to make a choice. They had their own clothing brand. This was before the NIL, though. This was before that.
Oh, God, yes.
They had their own clothing brand. And when the NCAA heard about it, when they were making money, on the side, just selling shirts, they had to make a choice. Either stop your business or play football.
Wow.
But they both chose because they were walk-ons at that, so they had to pay for their school.
Right.
And they, chose, well, I'm already paying to go to school, so I might as well quit playing football.
Wow.
And just focus on my brand.
Wow.
So that just goes back to, paying athletes, because you have the scholarship players who get their school paid for, but you have the walk-ons who pay for school, but we do the exact same things, football activity together.
Right.
We do the same workouts, same practice time, same everything, except they just have to pay for school.
So how does the NCAA, and I want you to continue that point, how does the NCAA expect them to pay for everything, this, that, and the other, food, whatever's needed, without some type of other income? Like, with no scholarship. Like, I don't understand that. And they literally made them make a choice. Like, you had to give up on your dream or to have or make some type of income right now. Wow. I that baffles my mind. Now, that reminds me of, do you all know why college paraphernalia, college branding is even a thing? Like making clothing for your university. You know who started that? You'll never guess. Greg freaking Anthony. When he was with the University of Las Vegas, running Rebels when they were cold-blooded and they were beating everybody's ass in college basketball, this dude in his dorm room was making up shirts that said UNLV Running Rebels and National Champions 1990. He made up his own shirts. NCAA was so fucking stupid. They had no merchandising before that. They had no championship hats, shirts, hoodies, nothing. He was the first one to do that. And again, he got told, like your boys, stop doing it. And I don't think it was a stop doing it or you're off the team, but I'm assuming it probably was. But that's where they got the idea from this young brother in his dorm room printing up shirts, making a killing because they wanted to rep UNLV just winning the championship. It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So whatever happened with those guys? Like with the
they still were going to school, but they just stopped playing football.
Wow.
So they really just had to make a choice.
How'd their brand go?
One of them is still doing it.
Nice.
Nice. Mr. Code, that's his brand. Cold is his brand.
Mr. Cold?
Cold.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, cold, like cold-blooded.
It's just COLD. Cold.
Okay, nice. Nice.
And then the other guy, I don't really follow as much now, but I do know that he eventually moved back home and then did his clothing brand back at home.
Wow. Okay. That is just so crazy. I mean, those are the hoops, and that is the bullshit that we have to jump through as, just people just trying to make it in this world. You're a college student, you're broke, you're just trying to, have enough money to, get some clothes, eat some food. You don't have the benefits of D1 scholarship athletes, so you're just trying to make it, and look what the NCAA does. It's just really freaking sad because it's what your point earlier, name, image, likeness. that is 100% them being okay with that because they get to keep their money. So with going back to your PhD, which I'm super impressed about, what will that? It's basketball. So will it involve college basketball, pro ball, overseas? Like what?
All of the above. So
Okay.
right now I'm working on a project. It just got accepted for publication, and it's a project looking at kind of, so the framework is to say that yes, at the professional level, at the D1 level, basketball is predominantly black.
Right.
We know that, but that significantly drops off at the D2 level, even more so at D3, and then even more so at the youth level.
Right.
So it's this idea that, like, if we continue to push that, you know, only black people play football and basketball, it also, you know, brings in the narrative of like, okay, well, that's the only thing black men are good at.
Right.
Or that's the only thing they can be associated with or they're only at this school to, on a, you know, an athletic scholarship.
Right.
So we're looking at it as like, even now, even more so, it's even more stark that like at the youth level, at the high school level, at, you know, these D2, D3 levels, it's white, it's rich. Those are the people that can access, you know, football and basketball spaces. You know, when you start to see the stark difference at the D1 level or at the NBA level, is like that's kind of like a one-off situation. And even, you know, again, I'm going to say even more so, like today is a lot of our black athletes that are at the D1 level or are at the NBA level, they come from like middle class backgrounds. So it's about like accessibility and accessibility to resources. But on the flip side is that like we still have to pay attention to how, for especially for D1 athletics, like a lot of the time this is an opportunity for black men to get an education, for them to maybe one day provide for their families and provide for, you know, where they came from. But trying to acknowledge that like this is still like an institution that is very permeated by whiteness and racism. And, you know, if we continue to push this narrative of like, well, only black men are good at football, only black men are good at basketball, like it forgets the point that like rich white folks are still very much like running these things if you go back past D1.
Right.
And so we're just looking at like a general demographics of that. And that's one thing I'm working on. My master's thesis is going to be on if name, image, and likeness has an effect on academic progress, academic performance for black D1 athletes.
Right.
And, you know, right now, like academic performance is finding to be really low among black athletes.
Right.
And so my curiosity is like, okay, if black athletes have an ability to make money where they don't have to be so concerned about financial stressors, does that alleviate the pressure and allow them to focus more on their academics?
Wow.
So that's kind of the stance that I'm taking with that as well.
That is deep, and I can totally see that. I mean, if you have to study late for a test that is, or an exam that is super crucial to your overall grade, but you have to get up early for a photo session with the football team or a photo session for your NIL deal, which are you choosing? You know, I mean, that probably happens on a daily freaking basis. The other thing too, like when you say it's like twofold. When you say, okay, football and basketball, that's not the only thing black folks are good at. I look at that in two different ways. I look at it from when you mention it. Charles Barkley said that the famous Nike ad. You guys are super young, so I don't know if y'all remember this. Came out when y'all were when y'all were kids. I am not a role model. You guys remember that?
Maybe.
Okay, look it up on YouTube. It's really good. It was huge. The reason why it was so huge is because Charles always said shit that didn't nobody want to say, especially for a black athlete. He was saying stuff that did no black athlete want to say. I think him and him and him. Like, it was nobody else. Like, Albert Bell was a Major League Baseball player. He was hated by the media, but he didn't say nothing. He just didn't like them, you know, and he was just really good. But Chuck would say the shit that we would say behind closed doors. He would say it in front of a mic and camera. And one of the things he said in that ad was, and that ad was huge because he's dribbling the basketball, he's dunking. He said, I am not a role model. I am not this. I am not just things that we always think that a professional athlete should be, no matter what race they are. And Nike told him, don't do it. Why are we doing this? Don't do it. He's like, no, it'll work. Watch. Let me do this. So he does it. And the reason why he did it was when he would go to different schools in Philadelphia, when he was still a 76er, all he ever heard the black kids say was, I just want to be a basketball player or football player when I grow up. And he got sick of that shit. You know what I'm saying? It's sad. And then so when you have that narrative of, basketball and football, that's what black men do. And that's what the kids think that's all they can do. You know what I'm saying? And then the flip side of that to me is, you don't get a Mac McClure. I'm sorry if I say his name wrong. I'm sorry if I'm saying his name wrong, but you don't get a Mac McClure from last night in the All-Star Slam Dunk Contest who clowns because he's thinking, well, I'm white. Maybe I shouldn't play. Maybe I'm not good enough. You discourage kids who are not African American from playing a sport that anybody should get to play and love. Like it's not. It doesn't matter what your race is. You play a sport because you love it. I don't give a fuck what I am. If I like playing hockey and golf, I'm gonna play hockey and golf, and I'm gonna be good at it. You know, hence Tiger Woods and
Serena Williams.
Serena Williams, and my man with hockey, O'Keefe. Damn it! I hope I played for the Boston Bruins. Ren. I think his name was Ren. Was the first brother to ever play in the NHL. I'm going to do it like that, or I'm going to be somewhat good enough so I can play this sport. It's just, I don't like that. We can't just say, this is what black men do. They play a basketball and football because it's extremely limiting, and it excludes other folks that may not be black and think, well, I can't play. You know, that's how I look at that. I don't know.
And it, like I said, it just boxes, you know, black men and black women into like these categories that are stereotypical and problematic.
Right.
And then again, like there's something really funky about like the NCAA, like their biggest profit margins are with D1 schools. And then also their D1 schools that are football and basketball, like their basketball and football D1 programs also so happen to be, you know, majority black. Like there's something to be said about the NCAA's biggest profit margin is D1 football and basketball. They do not pay their athletes, and their athletes are so happen to be majority black. Like that is pure racialized exploitation. Right. Like that is labor, like free labor.
Exactly.
And it's problematic. And I think that there's something really funky about that is like where we see like predominantly black players, you know, in sports is also where we see predominant exploitation. Right. And that's what becomes so problematic for me.
That's the problem. And there's a book. I'm actually, Kobe, do you have a point to that? Do you have a point you want to add to that?
No.
Okay, right on. She nailed it for you. She kind of did. There's a book that you should read. I'm reading it now. It's called Black Market by Merrill Code. Merrill Code was a player, not a player development, more like a college development, college resource for Adidas. He worked for Adidas. And it's basically his whole job was, okay, we want your school to be an Adidas school. We'll give you such and such shoes, such and such jerseys, da-da-da-da-da. And he also did what, you know, most of those guys do, funnel players to different schools. Like this school, we want this, you know, this, that, and the third. And his book really breaks down. Now, the sad part is, he worked with Louisville with Rick Pitino. He worked with Duke with Coach K. He worked with Syracuse with Boeheim, KU with Bill Self. But himself and the black assistant coaches with some of those schools and other schools get arrested and get sent to jail, while the white coaches in white schools play dumb, like, whoa, this was going on? We had no idea. What do you mean? Da-da-da-da-da. And basically, my man, he wrote a book about it, and he talks about, you know, he gives his bona fides of how he was in, you know, introduced to the game, how well he knew the game, which he did. He knew the game in and out, played it on a high level, played at Clemson University, D1 athlete. But then, goes into Adidas and sees and notices the business side of basketball. Like you said, college football is a business. College basketball is definitely a business, as we know. And he notices that while trying to play here and there, oh, you said you wanted me, but you actually got such and such, and da-da-da-da-da. I get screwed over. But my man gets arrested by the FBI, supposedly for, some fake-ass RICO charge of trying to, send illegal money to this school and this person, which was never the case. And he in his book talks about that. And it's only the black assistant coaches or black player reps for these school companies who get in trouble for it. So black market, you should definitely read that. That would I think that would really help your masters. Now, help me out. One of the funnest things before we get up out of here, we got to talk about this. How did you get involved with the initiative to get basketball hoops in Forest Park, something that should have been happening years ago? Nadia, talk about that. How are you involved with that?
So the project is called Whereas Hoops, and it's
Whereas Hoops. Whereas Hoops.
Yeah,
right.
And it was created by John Early and Noah Cohen, which are two professors that are at Washington University.
Nice.
And
you need to get them on my show. I need to have them.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And first of all, they needed someone who was black that was there because it's two white men. And I asked them, I was like, this is my research. I'm really interested. Is this something that I can be a part of? And they were absolutely. And so it's been, a lot of fighting with, Forest Park and trying to get these basketball courts in, which are officially approved at this point. It's just quote unquote,
gotta give it up for that. Gotta give it up for that.
Yeah, they're supposed to start, construction in the in the fall.
Okay.
Late fall. But I think the biggest hurdle right now is we had these open houses where St. Louis community could come out and vote on the basketball court they think would be best, what they're supposed to look like, and have people talk about what it means to put basketball courts in Forest Park. And so, as you know, Forest Park kind of runs at this dividing line, of where St. Louis is segregated, and St. Louis is, one of the most segregated cities in the United States.
It is.
It's also one of the most black cities in the United States, and it's there's something to be said about where the parks are going to be put are right across the street from, the richest, biggest, houses owned by white people, in the city of St. Louis. And, they are taking issue with, these basketball courts and, calling for things like they want trees so they don't have to, it blocks the noise, it blocks the view. They don't want to see black people gather, essentially. They don't want lights, because it's disruptive, which is insane to me because, it's a basketball court. It's an outside basketball court. And also, where the basketball court is going to be placed is, pretty far in the distance from the street of Lindell.
Okay.
And
that was my question, because their homes are right there on Lindell.
Yeah.
One of the richest spots in the state of Missouri, right there. And when we were talking last Friday, you said it was over in that area, but it's not real close to them?
It's on the road, but it's at when you're heading towards WashU on Lindell, it's towards the very start of that road, and it's pushed back. It's not it's going to be right in front of their house. So
it's closer to WashU.
It's closer to WashU, but it's also it's going to be more close to Kings Highway.
Okay.
Kind of area. So you'll be able to see it from Lindell.
Oh, wow.
You'll be able to see it, but there's no way that the lights and the noise are going to cause so much havoc for you. That you need to be complaining about these basketball courts.
Right, just excuses, just something to bitch about.
And then they have things like, an ice rink that they keep up all year.
Talk about it.
And then they have things I've never heard of squash ball.
Yeah.
What is that? They have these random sport. Y'all can't have basketball. And it's what you said last week. Me and Kobe were just talking about it in the car. Is basketball really is one of those sports that you don't need anything. You need a piece of paper to wad up and throw it into a basket. You need a ball, and it is it is one of the easiest sports to make a game out of anything.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's crazy to me that like and it's also cheap.
Yeah, it's hell.
Like,
that's like, why we play it.
All you need is a concrete slab.
You don't need all the equipment.
No, there's nothing that you need. And so it's crazy to me that like a sport that can be so accessible to so many communities, like is so like non-existent in the city of St. Louis, you know, a black city. And, you know, like you said, is like sports are for everybody. It doesn't matter the sport, but like there's something to be said about like how much the black community centralizes basketball. Like basketball is a part of like black culture, black community. Like that is a big part of the things that we enjoy as a community. And I think it's very racialized that there aren't basketball courts and there never has been. Right. That's the thing, there never has been.
Right. There weren't any in the past.
There were never any basketball courts
in Forest Park.
In Forest Park.
I'm shocked by that.
Yeah.
Jeez, I thought for sure, because when I came here, my first time coming here was like 1990 or 91. I came here visiting my aunt because she had always lived here. She still does. And I thought for sure they had some back then. They did.
Yeah,
Jesus.
No. I know that they had I know they had basketball courts in Lafayette, but like Lafayette Park, but I don't know when they took those down.
Okay.
And if they are still up, they're definitely decimated.
Wow.
And you know, I have, you know, a few thoughts around Whereas Hoops. I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited about bringing basketball courts to Forest Park. But there's 3 areas that I have issue with, and I think one is like we're not reaching black St. Louisans. Like, you know, any black St. Louisan that I run into and, you know, just so happen to pop up the conversation of basketball courts and they have no idea. Yeah. They have no idea that it's happening.
Yep.
And it almost feels like Forest Park is intentionally
not promoting it.
Yeah. Like it feels intentional that it's not being promoted in that way. And then the second thing is like accessibility. Like, what does public transportation look like if we're talking about in particular like black impoverished communities in St. Louis, like, and if their way to get around St. Louis is public transportation, like what about North County where public transportation completely drops off? You know, like
it does.
Where do black St. Louisans that live in North County, how are they supposed to get to Forest Park?
Right.
Like how are they supposed to get to Forest Park and actually access these basketball courts?
It's a great point, because I'm just thinking now, like I live in North County. I'm trying to think. When was the last time I saw a bus?
Yeah.
Like Jesus.
Yeah.
like man.
The train. I don't even think the train goes up. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think the train goes that far north.
I remember when the Metro first started, they tried to have a line to go to North County.
Yeah.
And that's when North County was not. It was becoming black, but it wasn't. You know what it is now, which is like 80-90% black.
Right.
And that we can't have one go out that way. No,
right.
Like the closest line that we have in North County that a Metrolink is the airport. That's it.
Yeah. And then that's another thing is that like at, you know, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, well.
You had 3.3 things that you're not.
So I think when it comes to, that's what I was going to say. When it comes to the public transportation as well, outside of like the hockey games and the baseball games, who's using the public transportation?
Right.
Black St. Louisans.
Right.
Like we know that the public transportation system is predominantly used by black St. Louisans. So like how are we going to make this accessible for black St. Louisans that don't live around Forest Park?
Right.
And then my third point is that I'm really concerned with hyper policing. That's
shit. And I'm so glad I had you on this show. Talk about it, girl.
Yeah.
For real, yes.
Like, as excited as I am when I hear coded language from these Lindo residents being like, well, we want more security. Like,
that's what that is.
Yeah. Like, black people gathering, that heightens, the most dangerous police force in America.
Right.
And I'm really, concerned about that.
Right.
I'm really concerned about, police presence being, on an uptick of Forest Park. And not, giving autonomy, freedom, space for black people to enjoy the park.
Right.
Like a public park, one of the biggest public parks in America.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that's kind of, those are my issues that are seemingly unavoidable, But at the end of the day, like, I am very happy to see that basketball courts are being put in.
I definitely am too. I'm extremely excited about it. But to your last point of contention, to the person that says, well, and I'm going to play, you know what I'm going to do right now. Well, what we probably need that extra security. We may need a police presence. A lot of times when they go play basketball, they tend to pull out guns and shoot each other. How are we going to be protected from that? Like, what do you say to that person who has that fear?
I think the thing is that fear is like very stereotypical and very racialized. I've been to pickup games around St. Louis. I've been to pickup games in North County, and to be fair, they're inside, but like they're not, like, there's no security.
Right.
Like, and I've seen black men at these pickup games get heated. They're pickup games. Of course they get heated.
Exactly.
But nobody reaches that point. Like, nobody, like, basketball, again, is seen as something as frustrating as it can be, especially during pickup games where there aren't refs and, like, people to monitor the game. Like, that doesn't automatically mean violence. Like, black people can get mad at one another and bicker with one another without this stereotype that it's going to immediately turn into violence.
You better hold on to her. Master Kobe, shit. Right. High five him up. High five him. That was, I love that you said that. I love that you said it, and I love the way you put it. It's just like, it's always a dark cloud over us, and don't let them get upset. Right. Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
Where people who want to join the initiative, be a part of it, help bring something positive, because when I mentioned this to a friend of mine at work, they said, well, what about Tower Grove? What about this park? What about? I was like, yeah. So, like, first off, before you give your information out, are there any initiatives or anything started or plans or talks for Tower Grove and any other parks?
Yeah. So whereas Hoops has talked about Tower Grove being like the next space,
nice.
And I think I told you this last Friday as well, and like I'm in full support of that. But again, Tower Grove is one of those places that have completely gentrified.
Yep.
And
Yes.
black people are, as much as you see white people with who own those houses with their Black Lives Matter signs placed in their yard, like those are not spaces that feel welcoming to black St. Louisans at this point. So I've proposed to them, and they agree with it, is that I really want to focus on like rehabilitating basketball courts in North County.
Yes. I'm gonna do it every time.
But I really want to rehabilitate the basketball courts in North County. Like, the ones that are there are abysmal and not taken care of.
If they're even there.
If they're even there. Cracks in the concrete, grass growing out of it.
Right.
There's no net. If there is, it's metal.
Exactly.
Like, it's not welcoming spaces. So like I think the biggest thing is like rehabilitating basketball courts in black communities would be like ideally my next step.
Damn right. Don't hate on the chain net though. I grew up with them shits. I love chain
net.
Yeah. That noise it make when you switch on the chain. Woo! That's something different, babe. That's something different. You're talking about real basketball head right here. All right.
So,
and since you even mentioned North County, I live out there. Literally the only places we can hoop are at a school. There's no I'm thinking about right now. I mean, there may be, but
I think there's some. I could not tell you where it's at. I know it could be on the way to North County.
Okay.
There's tennis courts there. It's where the pool is.
Okay.
You know where the pool,
which pool?
The pool, you remember, okay, in the early, or what was it? Mid-1900s when the pools integrated in St. Louis, and the black children jumped in the pool and like there was a riot.
Oh yeah. Which pool? I heard that story.
I don't know the name of the pool. I'd have to look it up.
We got to find
remember.
that.
I always forget.
Folks, we're going to talk about it after the show, and I'm going to tell y'all about it on the socials because we got to find that. We got to find out where that pool is because that's history, and we need to find out where these hoops are because you're right. Yeah. There are some standalone hoops out there in North County. But they're not a lot because literally every time I go hoop, I got to go to a school.
Yeah.
And then the thing that pissed me off, I literally had to go because I used to live by what is it? Is it Hall's Ferry School? It's not Cross Keys. I think it's Cross Keys Elementary, and I used to live right by there, and it's in an apartment complex right by there. So we would take, and we wouldn't have to walk down Newhalls. It was like a back street you could take, and you would get to the hoops that way. And I remember going up there one day, and the hoops were down. Like they literally took the hoop down. I went to the school the following Monday and say, hey, why did you guys take down the hoops? Oh, we take them down in the summertime. Well, no, we take them down when it's a spring break or when it's like no school in session. Why?
Why?
Like, what's the
Like,
point?
why?
I don't.
Yeah, and I think that's like so where that pool is, there's some tennis courts, and it's shared. Like there's basketball courts like behind the tennis courts, but they're again abysmal.
Right.
Like, just not taken care of. Like you are playing basketball on that court. If you step on a crack, you're breaking your ankle.
Yeah.
Like there's
Easily.
no way.
Easily.
And it's just, overgrown and no lights, not taken care of, no nets, like, and so it's things like that. Like I want to rehabilitate basketball courts in St. Louis where Black communities are already residing.
Yes.
So it's accessible, it's walkable, it's, if you don't have a car, but like, it's a 5-minute drive, you can get a ride.
Right.
Things like that versus like a 20-minute drive, to Forest Park.
I swear to goodness, I think we are, Black people are like Pac said, we are the rose that grows through concrete. How in the hell do we keep putting NBA talent out and we do not have a major like support or showing for basketball?
Oh, there's speaking to the fact that I just saw it on Twitter a week ago. St. Louis produces the most professional athletes than any other city. And there's no basketball team, there's no football team, there's no promotion of either of those sports. It's predominantly white sports that have a predominantly white fan base. And that's all St. Louis is. So I take issue with that, is like we produce some phenomenal athletes. I mean, me and Kobe go to, the classics at Vashon or East St. Louis.
Yeah, you're going to see some ball.
My goodness.
Yes,
like,
talk about it.
Almost surpasses D1 games.
Right.
Like, it's insane how talented these athletes are.
Right.
And it feels so problematic that, like, that cutoff is, like, at high school.
It is.
Like, there's no continuance through college.
Right.
Or, professional.
Or after high school.
Yeah, there's nothing.
And it should be. I mean, we have actually there is, and it's I've had this brother on the show, and he's trying to promote his league, and I'm trying to help him. It's like pulling teeth. But what is it? The ABA. St. Louis has an ABA team, has a men's and women's basketball team. The men play at, I want to say the men play at Harris Stowe. The women play at Egan Center over in Florissant. What is it? It's I think it's St. Louis Spirits. And that is for those of you out there, because Nadia, you nailed it. I know you and Kobe, you all see this. D1 professional talent at a high school level. You see that. For those of you that may not want to do the college route, go to the ABA, look into your local teams, look into G Leagues where you live at, because you have those teams there. Like those resources, they are there. Please use them and take advantage of that. We don't. It really sucks when I liken this. I liken what you just said to Hoop Dreams, because Hoop Dreams is one of my favorite movies ever. Have you all seen that? You never seen Hoop Dreams?
I know. I know.
How old are you?
I'm 20. I'll be 27 next month.
Okay, 27. You young, but you're not that young.
Yeah.
How old are you, Cole?
I'll be 25 in April.
Okay, both of y'all mad young. Y'all still should know Hoop Dreams. Yeah. All right, I follow, and he follows me too. I'm blessed. Arthur Agee on Twitter. Arthur, basically, Hoop Dreams was about two, and I don't know how they got how these young filmmakers got the ideas to do it. They take two young basketball players from the city of Chicago, both growing up in the hood. One at Cabrini Green, the other one another part of the hood in the Chi, and they follow these kids from like, I want to say 7th grade all the way to 12th. And it literally, in the movie, it's a 4-hour movie, and it goes by like this. And I'm telling you, watch that freaking movie. William, Arthur Agee's older brother, William, he was a star basketball player in Chicago. Cold-blooded, like super nice. Had recruitment from this school, recruitment from that school. Something happened, he never did it. My man's a security guard.
Right.
You know, just wasted talent. Folks, don't waste your talent. If you have a talent in science, math, reading, writing, what is it? Basketball, football, squash ball. I don't give a shit. You know, don't waste it. You know, get out there and do something with it. Now, before we get out of here, we're gonna have some fun too. We got to talk about the current state of the NBA. We see you rocking that little Ivo shirt you got. That shirt jersey is fresh.
This is my baseball jersey.
No doubt.
75th anniversary.
Damn right. Oh, that's what that is?
This is the 75th anniversary Iverson baseball jersey.
That is hard.
Yeah.
That is hard.
Yeah. Yep.
Now the Philly love you have, that's from your dad being from
He's from Harrisburg, but
okay. How far is Harrisburg?
Like an hour.
Hour from PA. From okay,
hour and a half, yeah.
That sounds about right. And so you get your love for Philly from there. You've been watching Philly all your life. Hands down, Ivo's your favorite. Okay, why couldn't he ever get a chip? Why couldn't he get over the hump?
Oh my goodness.
So I just had to hit you with it.
So I think Iverson informs a lot of my research because he was really like kind of a Charles Barkley. He did not give a fuck about you know the executives. He didn't give a fuck about media. He said and did exactly what he is. Like he embodied his blackness in a way that we hadn't seen because at the time, you know, we were just coming off this Michael Jordan hype, who was, you know, polished and wore suits and
he's GOAT.
Yeah, like, you know, was very embedded into
corporate
kind of
world.
like the white side of basketball and executive, all of that stuff.
Yep.
Iverson was not that.
Yep.
And I think that they wanted Iverson to fail. Like I very much stand by that. And
he brought hip hop to the league.
he did.
Hip hop was not brought to the league before
He
that.
did, right. And he, like, this whole, like, idea of, you know, dressing the way you want to express yourself, he brought that to the league. I mean, like, the dress code that was implemented is often called the Iverson dress code. Because,
true. Very
like,
true.
they didn't want this, like, stereotype of, you know, what black athletes, you know, look like or whatever. But, like, they're enforcing that stereotype by placing these dress codes. Like, these are, again, autonomous, independent black men who own the rights to their body. They should be able to do whatever they want.
Yes, ma'am.
And so, like, I think we were just in an era where, like, we did not want to see that. We did not want to see black men embody their blackness. And Iverson got a lot of flack from that. And, you know, I can't speak to whether or not that affected, you know, his ability to obtain a ring. But Iverson also informs the way that, like, I think about basketball and the way I watch basketball, because I am a believer that I do not think a ring makes you the best player of all time. Not to say that a ring doesn't not make you the best player of all time, but I think that there are phenomenal players that we pass up just simply because they don't have a ring.
Very true.
You know, players that carry teams and don't have rings.
Talk about it.
That doesn't make them, you know, not the best player ever. I mean, Allen Iverson invented the double crossover. So, and now every player does it. Like, he is kind of like this staple, this blueprint of how we see smaller bodied basketball players play now. Right. And also the way he moved on the court was, you know, artistic. It was melodic. It was beautiful. It wasn't, you know, and I, you know, was just talking about this, is like, you know, we fixate so much on statistics and like stats chasing and, you know, things like performance. And I think we do it because it's that's how the NBA makes money. But nobody wants to focus on how these bodies, like the way that they're able to move and their ability to move like this is artistic. And I think that the way Iverson did it was artistic.
It was.
And he does a lot for his community. Like, he does a lot for his community today. And yeah, I mean, he was culturally influential outside of basketball, and that's what mattered to me. Like, he cared about the black community and was loud about it.
You sure you're not going to do a dissertation on Ivo? Because
I probably would. I would if they let me. I would.
You're breaking it down, girl.
I love him. I love him. He's you know, obviously my all-time favorite. But like, even players like Dennis Rodman, love Dennis Rodman.
Oh God, yeah.
Like, I kind of love the messy basketball player. Like, I loved. Like, I am a big, like, my favorite time period of basketball was the early 2000s. Because I think that that's when we really appreciated defensive players. We really appreciated, like, aggression. And it's funny, me and Kobe were talking about it, but on, like, when we were watching the three-point All-Star thing yesterday. I don't know if it was Shaq or Reggie Miller, but it was funny because they were like, for a game that has focused so much on 3-point shooters, like they're doing horrible.
They were. It was a skills competition.
Yeah.
That's what it was. That's when they said it, and you were right. Like because
Yeah.
Reggie said it and Draymond echoed it. It was just like it's so much 3-point shooting in this game right now, but we got a 3-point. It's like the skills competition. You got to shoot random shots, and they couldn't. There's a lot of players couldn't hit shit. But it's a lot different when you're like you're doing when you're in one of those skills competitions, 3-point competitions, slam dunk competitions. They're so much harder than being an actual game. All eyes are on you, or all eyes are just on you three because you guys are in the skills. It's just y'all. It's just you. So can you perform now?
Right.
So that
Right.
that was funny. I think that was nerves.
Yeah.
Though. I think that was nerves.
I think it's also that like I could talk about this all day, but like I really appreciate the position of a center in a way that I think people are just like starting to lose touch with.
They are. They don't anymore.
No, and it's a position that's dissipating. Like nobody wants to be a center. Everybody wants to be a scorer. Everybody wants to stats chase. But I think that there is an art and a beauty to someone like Dennis Rodman going the whole game without making a point.
Exactly.
But like still is a huge contributor
Exactly.
to a team that won 6 rings.
Exactly.
Like I don't know. I have a lot of feelings around it, but the center is my favorite position. I think defense is very important in basketball in a way that is like just not encouraged anymore. And I think that's, a mix of changing, fouls and the way fouls are called, but also like this highlight of like as many times you can get the ball into the basket, like we make more money.
Right.
Like we're closer to making more money as long as you guys make more points.
Oh yeah, I was listening to Dominique being interviewed by Justin Termini and Sam Mitchell on NBA radio on the way down here, and they were just saying that like that's the game now. The game is more scoring. It's not defense. But when you're a defensive specialist though, you will get some attention. Like Grant Williams, and I want to say Grant Williams is a defensive specialist, which he kind of is, but his offensive game has gotten a hell of a lot better. So I think that's why he gets his props too, because he could hit them little open threes in the corner now. Well, he couldn't do that before. He would always take them, but he would brick them. Now he can actually hit them. Now that play they drew up the other night with the Celtics when they were playing, their last game before the All-Star break when everybody was out. They were playing Milwaukee, and everybody was out. They had him do the last play, and he dribbling. That's not his game. Yeah. So I don't know why they had that. But I get your love. I get your love for Ivo, and I get your love for centers because centers are severely forgotten about in this game.
Shout out to my man Embiid.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because it really is like he is a very good defensive player, but is very much playing into the net. Like I'm gonna play y'all's game. If y'all want me to shoot, I'm gonna shoot. But I'm gonna still be a defensive player. I'm not like people hate that he makes threes. Like, and he's good at it. Like y'all are mad because a big man can make a three. Like,
but I think it's people get mad at that because it's almost to your point. Like you're a center. Once you do what centers do. But the game has evolved. You can't just be a center that sits on the block no more.
Right.
If you're that, you're Rudy Gobert. You're out the league.
Yeah.
I mean, you're prehistoric. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You have to be able to do both. So I respect it. But okay, more importantly though, what are y'all gonna do? How far are y'all gonna go this year?
we're gonna make it.
You're gonna make it.
I feel it. To the championship. You talking about the Sixers?
Yeah.
I think like
I ain't talking about I ain't talking about y'all G League.
I'm every single year I say it because I'm a diehard Sixers fan, but like this year feels especially different.
It does.
I think, one of the things that is something that is we can't predict for is like Embiid always gets injured. He's doing too much. He forgets that he's 7-1. Yep. But the other thing is that like this is the best we've done. Like this is a great record. We have a great lineup. We have our men that replace our top 5 are doing well as well.
Right,
so
right.
I'm really excited. I think we make it far. I think we win.
So?
I think we make it.
I'll be honest with you.
I think we deserve it. I think Philly is a team that has been deserving of it in times. Yeah.
The city. Do you know y'all have been runner up to every championship this year, and from MLS to NFL to freaking MLB. Damn,
I know,
crazy.
I know.
But we're not going to continue that narrative with y'all.
But the crazy part is that like when it comes to like hockey or baseball, like those are teams that were not expected to make it as far as they did. Like Phillies, especially, like.
Nobody
halfway through the season, you wouldn't have guessed that they would have been in the World
Preach.
Series. And I think it's the same thing
Preach.
with the Sixers, is that, you know, people have this narrative, which is not necessarily like a wrong narrative. It's like, you know, Philly always falls short, you know, in the first round, in the second round.
Right.
But I just really, it would be hard for me to believe, because James Harden is performing the best he has in, you know, several seasons. And I think he likes being there. I think people were really wary about his performance because he, you know, he's James Harden. He does what he wants when he wants to do it.
He does. And he always nuts up in big games.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things where, like, I think he enjoys being in Philly. I think he enjoys playing there, and, like, you can see it in his game.
Right.
And I think that he's performing in a way that's really complimentary to Embiid and the rest of the team.
It is. I'll be honest with you. I think I don't see you all getting to. I don't see you getting past this juggernaut right here. I mean, I don't see.
Okay.
That's a juggernaut.
I'm not about to do this with you.
That's a juggernaut. Yes, you are.
You know, Boston and Philly are. That's
we're hated rivals.
Yep,
I don't see you all getting past them, because Boston is a fucking juggernaut this year. Sorry.
Jason Tatum is soft.
He is soft like a bullet. Dude, cold-blooded. I mean, this is the Celtics world, and we're just living in it. But unfortunately for you, I'll keep it real. This is the toughest y'all ever looked. This is the most no nonsense y'all ever looked. Like, y'all look like y'all are not kidding around. Like, usually it's always some random bullshit, some drama, or some shit getting in y'all way, or just stupid ass play.
Simmons, yeah,
exactly. That dude, I knew he wasn't gonna be the player.
Please.
I knew.
Please.
I just, the way he just completely melted on y'all, I was just like, he is done in the league. And I had arguments with co-hosts at an NBA Finals event that I did 2 years ago, talking about I'll take Ben Simmons on my team right now. Why?
What?
Did you see what he just did? He's a 6'8", 6'9" point guard. So fucking what? If you have a point guard who is scared to lay up the ball, you can keep him. I don't care. I don't give a fuck how good his defense is. Y'all can keep him. But to your point of losing him, getting rid of that bum, and you guys, I almost
Ben Simmons
wanted to say,
argument is also a big debate in the household.
I don't know why it should be
A debate in the household, in the sense that, like, I think that the reason why Ben Simmons is so disappointing is because Kobe's argument, and obviously correct me if I'm wrong. Kobe's argument is that, like, Ben Simmons is just disappointing all around, which is very true. But you know, he argues that, like, positions don't necessarily matter in basketball the way that they do in football.
They still do.
And so for me, as fluctuating as positions may be when you're playing the game, when you're active in the game, like, for Ben Simmons to be named a point guard, you're expected to make points.
Exactly.
Like, that is the and I think that that's what makes him so disappointing. Like, if he was a center, maybe people wouldn't be as disappointed. Like, but at the end of the day, he's attached to the title of a point guard. Like, nobody gives a fuck about your defense. Like, nobody gives a fuck about Steph Curry's defense. So,
and Steph has decent D.
And like, if he didn't, but still put up 35 points a game, like, nobody would say anything. Ben Simmons, not only, he just doesn't put up points. Named as a point guard. Like, I don't care about your height if you can't shoot. I mean, Iverson was 5'11", so like, at that point, like, what that really just doesn't matter.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
You got a point? Go ahead, Cole.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Back to that. What did Rondo do in his prime with your team? What did he do?
Oh, he ran our offense too, like perfectly.
Okay, but hold on.
And Rondo could score.
Was he a scorer?
He was not a scorer, but he could score. He could at least score.
Yeah, Ben Simmons just soft because he easy could lay the ball. He could dunk it. He just choose not to. So that's a different conversation. But like, I'm just saying, a point guard facilitate. You know. Yeah. You know, so like, I mean, you don't really have to be a scorer to play point. Yeah.
But you're right, and I get what you're saying. But in any era of basketball, I'm talking about, if you're talking about the 50s and 60s with Kuz, if you talk about the 80s with Nate Tiny Archibald and Isaiah Thomas, or you talk about early 2000s with Jay Kidd and Nash, you have to be able to put the ball in the basket as a point guard. Like, that is your thing. Like, you're basically the quarterback of the team, you know what I'm saying, on the court. But if you can't put that ball in that bucket, You're leaving. It's just
Right.
like on defense, we don't have to guard you. It's just we only have to guard 4 instead of 5. Yeah. It's just a huge liability. That's why Rondo, because see, all Rondo could do when he first got with us was lay the ball up. That's all he could do. He had no jumper.
He was good.
And he was good at it. He had no jumper. At Louisville, he had somewhat of a jumper, but when he got into the league, it wasn't as wet. He had to perfect that, you know what I'm saying, yeah. Which he did. But the way he would break people down and not be scared to take you to attack the basket, that is why he was so great for us. Ben takes that away. All I have to do is make him give the ball up, and I don't have to worry about it no more.
Yeah,
Ben
ain't got no heart.
Yeah,
no heart.
It's just sad.
I mean, like, who was our scorer before? You know, obviously, like, Embiid is a rarity of being like a scorer and a center, but it's also like, why did they bring Ben Simmons in? To be a scorer.
Yeah.
Like that, like at the end of the day, it was to be a scorer.
Yeah.
That's why when he was playing his bullshit games during the playoffs, they replaced him with the rookie Tyrese Maxey.
Yep.
They would, if they didn't want Ben Simmons to be a scorer, they would have replaced him with someone else random.
True.
Like they replaced him with someone who at the time was a rookie. They had no idea how he was going to play, but he was going to play more than Ben Simmons was.
Right. I'll be honest with you too, though, and we get into the minute. This is real basketball talk. What is it? Philly 76ers as an organization, y'all have some blame in this. You re-upped that man. Y'all re-upped him, and he gave you nothing. You know what I'm saying? You basically confirmed in his mind, I'm not doing nothing wrong. I'm the best basketball player that they want. I'm everything I'm supposed to be. They just paid me. Like, y'all confirmed that in his mind and then got mad at him when he gave y'all nothing. That was crazy to me. Like, y'all got to look at yourself.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that, like, it really is. And I see Ben Simmons debates all the time on Twitter, and people are like,
I don't understand.
Why did Philly give this man the confidence that they did?
Right.
Y'all let that last way too long. Like, we told y'all a long time ago, no. Like,
talk about it, boo.
and I think it's one of those things where, like, we really just gave him this position because I don't know, like, what the hype was and how it started around Ben Simmons. Like, it feels very, I don't know. Like, I know he was, like, first overall pick?
He was the first overall, yeah.
And so,
I don't know
like,
if he was number 1 overall, but he was definitely first for y'all.
I think
he was number 1 overall.
I'm pretty sure he was number 1 overall.
He might have been. I know he was number 1 for Philly, but I'm not sure.
I know that, like, I don't know what made it so hype about him. That, like, everybody was so obsessed with him for a year or two. When he just wasn't producing.
He wasn't. He was number 1 overall. Wow. Yeah. Philly and especially LSU. LSU needs to they need to take a big hand in this too, because you literally did not develop this dude at all. Like, y'all didn't develop him at all.
But then again,
Jesus.
That's my whole point. You know, like, if you really watched Ben Simmons, he was head down going to the rim just like Giannis did. You know, that's all he did. So then when he got to the league, they back off of him, you know, let him shoot.
And
he can't shoot.
Exactly.
So that's why, you know, I say that's where he's soft at, because he never developed a somewhat of a jump shot, but what he was good at, it slowed down when he got to the league, because he couldn't put his head down and go to the rim no more like he used to. But then he got to the point where he was just not even looking at the rim when he was standing right by the rim.
Right,
you know?
right, and looking away from it.
You 6'9",
acting like he don't see it.
Bro, you 6'9". You just standing right by the rim, sure. But like you said though, LSU never developed him to at least get somewhat of a jump shot.
Like, why would you not give? I guess a D1 college basketball now is, you know what, whatever you got, we're just going to work on that, and we're not going to give you any type of tools or improve your game at all. No fundamentals. We'll just go off of what you've been doing in high school. It's fucking sad.
Yep.
All right, before we get out of here, this was Nadia, thank you. Kobe, thank you. Thank you so much for coming, y'all. This was amazing. Tell the folks with some socials where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. My handle is NJNADIA13. Also, if you just look up my name, Nadia Jackson-Fitch, you'll find me on Instagram and you'll find me on Twitter.
There you go. So, what about, are you on anything else?
LinkedIn? Yeah, stuff like that.
Okay, well, that's office stuff.
Yeah.
What's the name? What about for people who we as hoops?
Whereas Hoops.
Whereas Hoops.
Yeah.
Okay, is that like a website or what is
It's also, they have an Instagram.
Okay.
So Whereas as one word and then
Okay.
Hoops.
Right.
Again, if you also find me on social media and just reach out to me, I can connect you with those pages as well.
There we go.
So.
Yo, this was amazing. We literally, I think we just did 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. We did.
And it went by dumb quick. Like,
Yeah.
And I still have more questions.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Always.
For another day.
Yeah, for real. Oh, we will. You have to come back.
Always.
This was great. Thank you so much for making this fun. Kobe, you were a great addition. Thank you for being in the house. Man, I just got so many questions.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Whereas Hoops, everybody there are doing something amazing in St. Louis, something that needs to be done. They are getting hoops in St. Louis parks. They're starting with Forest Park, and hopefully it will expand. And support them. Whereas Hoops, go to the IG page, anything that they got going in St. Louis. Be informed, y'all. You can't, well, I didn't know about it. I understand that. And a lot of entities don't want you to know about it. But guess what? Try to do some research and look into it, you know what I'm saying, and see what the hell is going on. Kobe, Miss Nadia Jackson-Fitch, this was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Right
you.
on. Oh, I appreciate having y'all. Yo, my name is Oda Great. You know what it is. This was a dope episode. Make sure y'all check it out. Thank you for those of y'all watching on Facebook. Love y'all. And keep smoking. Keep hooping. I didn't even get to talk to her about cannabis. Damn it. We're going to do that next time. Yo, it's time to smoke right now. We ready. All right, y'all. We out. Peace.